turns out that some people are crazy enough to go to them voluntarily. You should probably use this video as a list of places you should avoid at all costs. But if you're one of those crazy people, you could use this video as a vacation inspiration. It's up to you, but I think even the more die-hard thrill seekers among you will think twice after learning about these places. Number 10. Hawaii Volcano Tours. In Hawaii, a state so unique and far away that sometimes I forget it's even a state, you can bike or hike up volcanoes. It's a great way to sightsee and get some exercise, but unfortunately, volcanoes can also kill you. You'd think the biggest danger from volcanoes comes from lava, but that's not the case. In 2007, the National Park Service had to temporarily shut down the bicycle tour due to 3 deaths and various injuries that occurred within the span of a year. The 3 deaths were due to people losing control of their bikes on the challenging downhill trail. But people standing on solid ground without bikes have died as well. Various deaths and injuries have been caused as a result of what's known as lava haze, or lays, which are volcanic gases that can swamp areas quickly during periods of high wind. This laze is made up of a combination of hydrochloric acid, hydrogen sulfide, and carbon dioxide, none of which are things you want to breathe in a lot of, especially for people with respiratory conditions. If that's not enough of a reason to stay away, volcanoes can also lead to scalding hot ocean water and can send rocks flying through the air. So if you're visiting a volcano, make sure to heed the warnings and be prepared. Number 9. Devil's Pool. If the very name Devil's Pool wasn't enough to keep tourists away, there is also a plaque nearby that reads, "He came for a visit and stayed forever." It was made to honor one of the now more than 20 people who have died at Devil's Pool in Zambia. It has been described as the ultimate infinity pool, and it allows tourists to swim right on the edge and look out over one of the biggest waterfalls in the world, Victoria Falls. It's twice the height of Niagara Falls. You can only swim in Devil's Pool usually between September and December, when the dry season reduces water levels and current enough for the pool to be accessible. The pool is separated from the falls by a natural rock barrier, which creates an eddy with a minimal current, stopping swimmers from being carried away and allowing them to fool around a few feet from the edge. The most famous death at Devil's Pool was that of a heroic tour guide who managed to save a tourist who had started to fall, but then fell over himself. If you ever go to Victoria Falls, consider looking at the water from a nice, safe distance, possibly even while standing on dry ground. Number 8. Valley of Death. If Devil's Pool doesn't have an intimidating enough name for you, perhaps you would instead like to visit the Valley of Death in Russia. Thanks to nearby volcano Kiktanik, the Valley of Death has a high concentration of toxic gas that accumulates in the valley's lowlands without wind to blow it away. This toxic lake of gas kills local plants and animals. If you ever went there, you would first experience dizziness, a fever, and chills. Then, you would probably die. According to legends, it was first discovered in the 1930s by 2 hunters who found it scattered with the bodies of dead animals and devoid of plant life. They fled after getting a headache, but since their story has been told, adventure seekers have journeyed into the valley, many of whom never returned. Locals estimate around 80 people have been lost to the valley. It's closed off to tourists for obvious reasons, but because we humans just don't know how to leave things alone, there are in fact ways for tourists to visit. You can view the valley and the beautiful landscape from an observation deck, which was built at a safe distance away. If that doesn't cut it for you, you can take helicopter tours over the area and just hope you don't crash and end up in some bizarre stalker-esque scenario. Number 7. Yosemite Half Dome. Half Dome is a huge granite dome in Yosemite National Park, California. It's a famous rock formation in the park, and it's pretty easy to see how it got its name. One side of Half Dome is a sheer rock face, and the other 3 sides are round and smooth. The crest is 4,737 feet above the valley floor. It would be totally harmless if people would just leave it alone, but everyone knows that's not how people operate. The Yosemite Search and Rescue Team responds to about 100 incidents each year, from dehydration to much more serious issues. Though it might look deceptively easy, it's not for the out of shape or faint of heart. 8 people have died hiking up the trail on Half Dome. As you can imagine by looking at Half Dome, it's a very challenging trail. It takes a whole day to do, as you start at dawn and end around 12 hours later after walking around 15 miles. You ascend the entire thing, and the last 400 feet is almost vertical, and cables must be used to complete the trail. Most fatalities and injuries are caused by slipping from rain or wearing inadequate footwear. Rain can make the cables and rocks slippery, and there's even a section of Half Dome that's just called the death slabs. What often happens is people are greeted with clear mornings in the summer when they start the hike. But if it rains in the afternoon, even just a little bit, climbing the dome can be extremely dangerous as the stubborn individuals carry on when they should probably turn back. Here's a park ranger attesting to how dangerous the cables can be during bad weather.
My name is Steve Bumgardner. I'm a videographer for the park, and I was shooting on the top of Half Dome on a July morning when a thunderstorm rolled in very quickly. The threat of lightning was very real, and everyone on the summit decided that they should go down. The problem was it began to rain at the same time. Once water falls on that route where the cables are, it becomes incredibly slick. The cable itself is very difficult to hold onto when it's wet, and the fear of falling led to basically a traffic jam on the cables. So once we were stuck on the cables, we then became very exposed to the risk of lightning. And
tomorrow.